Jay here for Stretford Paddock. That's Adam McKola. How are you?
I'm good, are you alright?
Yeah, not too bad. That's Joe Smith. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, this is a little video talking about United's youth. Yeah, because we've been using young players recently. We've seen a lot of youngsters getting debuts, getting ingratiated into the first team. And it's not all gone according to plan. Some of them struggled a little bit. Sometimes you can feel like the fans are getting on the case a little bit. And I do feel sorry for them because they're coming into a massively dysfunctional Manchester United side. And maybe we should be handling them a little better. Maka, I'll start with you. I mean, we all love seeing players come through the academy, getting into the first team. We all want to see that. It's basically what, part of the Manchester United DNA. But what have you made of the way that some of the youngsters have been handled this season? Because we start with someone like Harry Amass, for example. In pre-season, did really well. We saw him getting better and better as pre-season progressed. We spoke to him, of course, on the channel. Got a very mature head on his shoulders, and he's a sort of defender that you like to see, forward thinking on the front foot, links up well with the wingers. Then he had to wait a little while for his sort of full debut.
He was injured, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was injured. Then people saying, what's going on with Harry Amass? Maybe the manager doesn't fancy him. Came into the team, did quite well. But then we've seen one or two games where you can see he has had a couple of moments where he struggled a little bit, which I'm not blaming him for, but it can happen to anyone. What have you made of his progress in the way that Manchester United have been handling him?
I think if he was fit, I think he'd have started well into double figures this season. Because I think he's a talented boy. He's clearly the right kind of profile of fullback that you want in the modern game now. But he's young. He's going to make mistakes. We saw, Lenny Yoro, who's much further along in his development than Harry Amass, who spent a year or so in France playing every single week. He's coming at United and he struggled at the start a little bit. He had a horrible time against Southampton. Your man Semenyo was giving him a difficult time. But it's all about how you learn and how you improve. And I think Lenny Yoro's shown he can do that. And Harry Amass, I think, will show that he can do that. It's difficult for them at this moment, though, because whilst I think we should use the league, we got one league game left, or two. While I think we should use the league games to develop the youngsters and bring them through, especially with all the focus on Europa League, when they are getting a chance, they're now in a squad of players or a first 11 of players that maybe a few of them have got one eye on Bilbao and making sure they're fit for that. A few of them know they're not going to be here next season. So then you're looking at like a patchwork of a team with some players that know they're not there, some players that don't want to be on the pitch, and then you've got your young players. So till you get them into a squad where everyone's pulling in the right direction, everyone should be here, I think it's difficult to truly judge them. But they need to use these chances because in the summer, you look at the amount of players that are going to leave or should leave Man United. There's going to be a lot of gaps opening up in the squad because we ain't going to be able to fill them all with transfers. So that's where I think the youth can kick into play. And so far, I've been reasonably impressed with Harry Amass. I don't think he's been dreadful. Like you say, he's had a few, shakes. I thought against West Ham, there's a few moments where you look at him and think, oh, we could do better there. But he'll come along. He'll be fine, I think. Talented boy. And like I said, if he wasn't injured, I think we'd have seen a lot more of him. Even before, the Europa League's got to the latter stages and we start focusing on that, I think we would have seen way more of him.
He almost goes on the radar, doesn't it? He's only just turned 18. It's quite rare
really young
for a player who's just turned 18 to be playing in Manchester United's defence. Yeah, he has been doing, and we've seen enough of him to know, like Maka says, what talent he's got. What have you made of the way he's been handled? And how do you see his long-term future? Do you think he is someone who eventually could become a first-team player, hopefully under Ruben Amorim?
The handling of academy players is always really difficult because you don't tend to give academy players debuts unless it's a truly kind of, since they've been 12, 13, we knew they were going to come through. Mason Greenwood, again, we don't need to talk about anything except him as a player for Man United. It was known when he was 13 years old he's going to get a start for Manchester United. Yeah, he was brought in a slightly different way. But mostly, it's people coming in through injuries, through mistakes, through rest, through too many games for the first-team players. So I think that on one hand, it's a shame that you have to come in when United are struggling. But if United weren't struggling, they probably wouldn't be playing.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to find that balance a little bit. But with Amass, in terms of long-term, I think that we've seen some really good things and some not so good things. But that's what you'd expect from a kid. He's got some of that kind of Luke Shaw sort of control and measure of himself and of the ball. He seems to control his body really well, which sometimes with academy players they look a bit every step is a bit heavy or every touch is a bit heavy. He seems to do that well. I think unfortunately he might be limited a little bit by his height. He's not particularly tall, and he lost out to a header in the box that I think was ended up being a little bit costly for us against West Ham, and that's something that you can't grow a foot just because you're talented. So that might be an issue for him. But I think longer term, like McKola said, we need people in the squad that can do things with the ball going forward. Wing backs don't grow on trees, and I know he's not an out-and-out wing back, but I do think you see the way he plays the ball, the way he strikes the ball in and around the 18-yard box. I think that he could definitely do that job if that's what we need him to do. But yeah, just got to give him more time. And this thing of getting the perfect time to play him, it doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
You kind of just have to take the opportunity you get. But yeah, I like him.
No, I do. I miss those days when youngsters at United used to get to play the last few games of the season because we always had the league wrapped up, and Fergie go, yeah, you can have we'll give a load of the youngsters a debut. Tyler Fredrickson's another one who's come into the team, done quite well, then had another game where a few people looking at him going, is he quite ready yet? Is he someone maybe we should bide our time with a little bit? I think was it Wolves he made his debut.
He looked good.
He was very good against Wolves.
Yeah, very good. Everyone was impressed. He thought there's a player there.
And we only lost that 1-0, so that was pretty much a win.
Well, that's
for
like
us.
a win for Manchester United, isn't it? And was it the Brentford game? I think was it where there was a little bit of a struggle, but he wasn't alone.
The West Ham one of the games was it Brentford where it was the youngest Premier League lineup we'd ever played?
Yeah, I think
the third in Premier League history, and I think it was the youngest we'd ever played.
I think that team was very young. That squad was very young, and Fredricson, it's like Amass as well. You can see why he's managed to get himself a debut. You can see what talent he's got. I worry, especially with defenders, you're in danger of you throwing him in a team that's struggling. We're sat right near the bottom of the table. Can that affect their long-term progression? Do you have any concerns around that, Matt? Or do you think that I'm being a bit melodramatic?
I think making mistakes can, obviously, you can take a hit. When you're a young player and you make mistakes, it's very difficult then to kind of earn the trust and get yourself back in there. But also you kind of have to accept it, because that's the development of players. They're going to have peaks and troughs, and they're going to be a bit hit and miss at the start, and the hope is that they iron all those things out. But now with the way football's consumed, you get nutmegged a few times, and you're looked at as some kind of joke online and stuff. I don't know, we all play a part in that, and it's funny at times, but to actually come through and develop under that pressure must be quite nuts. It's why I think you see like the contrast between, you see some of our players leave and they look better all of a sudden when they go elsewhere, or you look at players that, we should have signed him, but facts are we signed them. Let's say Moises Caicedo was one of them. We were linked with him when he was in Ecuador.
Yeah.
Like, we bring him in. Is he the Moises Caicedo he is now?
No.
Probably not. And that's because pressure does those things to you. When you're in that position and you have the pressure starting to build, you can crumble as a player. But it's about creating the environment around them where they're not scared to make mistakes. And if you believe that someone has the ability, you will stick by them ultimately. And I think the manager is a manager that can create that trust between himself and players, create that bond between him and squads. And we saw in, the young lad we were linked with, Giovanni Kendo, he played a big part in his development in Sporting as well. So I think the manager's someone that's, but again, he's coming under pressure. Sorry, I'm kind of having a discussion with myself. He is coming under pressure, which makes it hard for him, because he's got to get results. Well, and the start of next season is going to be crunch time.
It is, you're right. And it was curious, wasn't it, that Ruben Amorim said about Harry Amass and Fredrickson that they deserve better after the game. He said, the young players don't deserve sort of what's happening to them in terms of what the team's doing and the results we're getting. What did you make of that, and what did you make of what Mac is saying there about Ruben Amorim, how he could be the right manager to get these players going? There's if he sticks around, of course.
Yeah, there's definitely signs that he trusts academy players. That's a really good thing, and that's probably they probably spoke to him about that before they brought him in.
Yeah,
because that is one of the long-standing legacies and tenets of Manchester United, is trusting the youth. You look at the other teams who have won the Premier League in recent seasons. None of them have got even typically it's not even
only
3 or 4.
Foden, really.
Phil Foden is the only one at City, really. I know Henderson was captain when Liverpool won it, and Alexander-Arnold was there, but a lot of it is just bought in players.
Well, Henderson was bought in, wasn't he?
He was from Sunderland.
From Sunderland. Yeah,
from Sunderland. So, Chelsea never did it famously. Arsenal, again, never particularly did it even when they were winning titles. It was, it wasn't anything like what United have had down the years, and that's one thing that I think we should really be proud of. But like Adam said, it's hard because if they have 3 bad games, now it's some tactico and some Liverpool fan on Twitter has called them shit, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
And
Also,
obviously, it's not just that, but it's everything so much it's under such more of a microscope now than it used to be.
You also look at like who scored the 2 goals in our cup final win last. 2
Which
academy
cup?
players.
Oh yeah, the FA Cup.
Cubby
Yeah,
and Garnacho.
yeah.
And like those should be the blueprint for all of these players and the kind of like inspiration and Marcus Rashford and that. But then look what happens.
I know.
Garnacho's already, everyone wants rid of him. You know,
He's getting
putting up numbers Ronaldo weren't at this age, and
Yeah.
you know, it does. People do start to get, once you've had a season in the first team, all of a sudden you're not looked at the same way anymore, and you're not given that time, and that is the nature of football now. Like, I can't believe, and sometimes I fall into that trap of going, actually, I wouldn't care if we sold Garnacho.
Yeah.
And really, hold on a minute, we brought him through. He won us the FA Youth Cup. I know we brought him from Atletico Madrid, but he won us an FA Youth Cup, won us the FA Cup.
I know.
It should be a beautiful story that we should all be behind and kind of, you know, encourage. And he kind of seems to just, people are losing patience.
Dispensable.
Like it's easy to stand by Rooney and Ronaldo when they're in the squad. Obviously, I'm not comparing them as talents. Rooney and Ronaldo are 2 of the greatest players I've ever seen. But it was easier to stick by them because you had Giggs and Scholes, Keane for a bit. You know, like
Rio.
You had all these players around them that could stand up and take the pressure.
Yeah.
Now Garnacho's the guy who has to stand up and take the pressure.
Yeah, and he's seen as one of the focal points and main men of the squad, and of a squad that's failing.
Yeah.
He shouldn't even be the main man yet. He shouldn't be playing 50 games a season. He should be playing 30, half of which are off the bench. Like, that's the problem that, you know, some of these players might go on to have. Obviously, they're not being relied upon at that stage yet. But you're dead right, Adam. Where like now people are seen as the reason we're shit, rather than being allowed to flourish in a successful team. It's like, you start every week, we're not good enough, so you must not be good enough. And that is an awful amount of pressure for people to be playing on.
It is. It's kind of insane that someone like Alejandro Garnacho is, 20 years old. He's played over 140 games, I think it is, for Manchester United. That tells you more about Manchester United than it does about Garnacho, and that he's getting grief for playing so many games in a team that's not successful. By rights, he'd be playing maybe 20 games a season rather than 50. Another player you mentioned, like, I think one of you mentioned about people online giving him grief, is Chido, who came in with a massive amount of fanfare, massive amount of expectation because he came from Arsenal. Arsenal fans were having a meltdown when we got him. He's had some chances in the first team, not loads, but he's had, you know, he's played a few games. And he's someone that, especially online, it's like you get rival fans can't wait to stick the knife in with him, can't wait to have a go at him. Yeah, with Chido, but again, by rights, a 17-year-old wouldn't be starting up front for Manchester United or wouldn't be featuring up front for Manchester United. Yet we've only got 2 strikers. What have you made of Chido's sort of introduction into the first team, Maka, and what have you made of the reaction of certain people with him?
I don't read into reactions too much.
Yeah.
But as for him, I think he's been pretty good. The only thing he's missing is a goal. Really, I think his all-round play has been pretty decent. He's had a few half chances here and there. He's created chances for himself a lot as well. And you look at that and you think, had he been playing all the minutes that Højlund had, he probably has a few more goals than Højlund because of how he looks in the box. But then it's again like, same with Højlund. I know we're not including him in this list because we spent big money on him.
He's 20 when we bought him.
He should be developed as well.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be trying to thrive in this environment where you're the main man and if you don't score, we're fucked. Like, and usually we're fucked because he's not scoring.
Yeah.
But there is a striker there, I think, and you kind of just see him crumble under the pressure of what Manchester United is at the moment. But I like Chido. I think he's weirdly, I didn't think he was as tall as he is.
He's big.
Like, he seems stronger than he is. You remember Calvin Bassey? Like, you thought Calvin Bassey's going to stick him in his pocket. And he was strong enough up against him, and Bassey's a strong lad, and he looks like he's raw, but I think he can do bits in the first team. But again, he's got to be 3rd choice striker next season.
Yeah.
What do you looking at next season with Chido? Because the talk that maybe United will bring in a striker. I mean, you've spoken about this quite a lot over the last few weeks in particular. But even if we do, there's a chance that Chido could be getting used a lot next season, especially if we have injuries.
Yeah.
Does that concern you at all? Being maybe reliant on him, or do you think that there's a player there where next season he could be someone who you can rely on without it being an issue.
It needs to go the other way. You need to not have to use him once if we don't need to.
Yeah.
We should be set up in a way where Chido is 17 years old, and 17 years and 156 days when he made his start against Brentford, right? That he shouldn't even have to play for Man United for the next 2 years if we don't want him to. You shouldn't be relying on teenagers ever. If they're good enough and they break through and they start scoring, then you can start relying on him. Wayne Rooney, we ended up relying on him.
It's like Makeda. I remember Makeda and Makeda had just scored a hat-trick for United against Newcastle in like youth cup or
something like that.
And he was like, bruv, you need to go have a look at him. He might be worth a goal. He comes on and scores a goal. Look, I know that story didn't end how we all wanted it to be, but it's got to become that moment where it's like, I can't not use this boy.
Well,
it's becoming overwhelming.
Yeah, exactly. And we should let him get to that point. Yeah. Because rather than it going, we need you, no one else is scoring, who have we got, Rolodex, 17, chuck him in. That should never be the case. I know we talked before, like you can't always have the perfect introduction to the first team, but needing him to play, not because our strikers are injured but because our strikers are so bad and we as a team are so bad. Yeah. That really isn't good. And I think for him, like we said, he's 17 years old, only just 17 years old. Like he's someone that should be allowed to play in the youth team for another 12 months, and maybe occasionally he can come in off the bench, whatever. And I just think that he's got so much talent, and he's clearly such a great player for his age, and maybe some of that's because of his height and his size, and that might level out as he gets into men's football. But I don't want him to be in a position where we need him to score for us, because that is too much pressure.
But there's a lot of opportunity at Man United. Whether you're a young player or a signing coming in or you're an old player, whoever, the opportunity is there. Yeah. And Marcus Rashford needed one sniff of it, and he took it. Sometimes you're not going to get the opportunity when you want it to get, when you want to get it, or when the time's right, or when everything's perfect, and you just need to grab it. Yeah. And that's what some of these boys need to realise. Like, yes, that becomes a lot. I know we're kind of sitting here going, you can't put too much pressure on these boys, but also, if you want a big career at Man United, now's the time to be in our academy. Yeah. Look at it. You've never been closer to the first team than now.
Yeah. 100%. And it's a shame with Chido that he's not eligible for the Europa, because that could have been an opportunity for him.
Yeah. I think one other thing with Chido and strikers in general, I mean, you could maybe say Danny Welbeck, but I feel like he got enough chances in the first team. We knew what he was about when we let him go. We don't let strikers leave who then go on to score tons of goals elsewhere because we missed it, because we couldn't see the talent. When strikers score fucking goals, they play games, like you said.
Joel Red was the anomaly there. I think he had a lot of Giuseppe Rossi, for those that don't know Joel Red. But yeah, Pepe Rossi was the anomaly there. And you also had someone else came to my mind. He wasn't an academy player, but Forlan. Yeah, but again, if you're smashing it as an academy player and you're a striker, because strikers are worth more than anything else in football, you'll get enough chances to prove yourself one way or the other. So if he's good enough, I think we will find out. But then also, how many years have we had the guy in the academy? 90% of them haven't done much for the first team. No. Angel Gomez was James the guy. Wilson. Daniel Petrucci was the guy, whatever his name. Remember him? Yeah. Petrucci. You had. Just think of all these names that you can think of. James Wilson was the guy. James, remember him? Yeah. Like he looked like he was the bollocks. Do you remember David Jones? Yeah. I thought Dave Jones was going to be Roy Keane.
I remember Charlie McNeil's numbers when he was a kid were unreal.
Ribbon.
They looked, like you thought, this kid is going to absolutely smash it, and it's just there's so many reasons that it doesn't work out. And you got to remember that United, even though we're struggling in a minute, if you make it United, you're at the very, very top of football.
Ebanks Blake.
Oh, mate, Ebanks Blake.
Him and Giuseppe Rossi were the baller. Fraser Campbell.
Mate, there's another one.
What happened with Fraser Campbell?
What? Where did he go?
What?
Why did he leave?
Why?
I don't know.
You should know this.
Go on, what is it?
When we signed Berbatov, Spurs took him.
Oh, he played for England, didn't he, Fraser Campbell?
I forgot about that.
I forgot about the Berbatov deal.
I completely forgot about it. What was it, 30 million and Fraser Campbell?
Yeah.
What?
30.75 million and Fraser Campbell.
Yeah, he played for England. One cap, innit?
I think so. I think he got one cap for England, yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, there's another couple of players.
David Healy.
There you go. I've got another couple of players what I mentioned who, it's mainly been injuries this season that sort of scuppered him a little bit. Toby Collyer, who it seems like a different season, doesn't it, when he came on against Liverpool?
Yeah, it seems like
when we're 2-0 down at half time, and it's like, oh, we're going to take Casemiro off, you go and sort this out, which is a great, ask of any youngster.
We've been lucky though, because Casemiro, all right, in the Europa League has stepped up.
Yeah.
And we kind of like, I mean this in no disrespect, I almost forgot about Toby Collier.
It's been a little while, the injury.
Partly because I hardly watch the league games anymore. Don't give a shit.
Don't blame you.
But the Europa League, we have had people step up, unfortunately.
It'd be good.
Because Collyer did well, didn't he? Was at the Emirates for the FA Cup game. He's a player there. He's full of energy.
Shoulders, yeah.
He's the one where you think, if you handle him right, if things go right, he could have a future at United. We have to wait and see. Aiden Evans, another one we brought in. I remember watching Aiden Evans when we announced Dorgu on the pitch, and you're thinking, is Aiden Evans going to get much of a game this season? Is this just sort of...
We've got to see him injured.
Yeah.
Did he get injured in Europe?
No, Leicester, wasn't it?
Leicester, that was it.
Mate, he's done well ever since every game he's played. He came on, did well against Fulham, came on, did well against Sociedad, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then obviously the injury against Leicester. Just been unlucky, really, because there's a player there, but he's played 3 games?
Heaven,
or 4 games.
I know the sample size is tiny on all of these people.
Yeah.
None of them have played more than, I don't think even Collier's played 7 or 8 games, or whatever. Heaven is the one for me that really excites me.
Yeah.
He immediately fit in that left centre back role. He's good on the ball. He's got size on him, which a lot of them don't always have when you're coming through at that age. You can't help how you're built, but he's not getting pushed around. He's got pace. He used to be midfielder, so he can play on the ball well. His positioning was very good. Even the way he got his injury, he was tracking his man really well and getting in a great tackle at the back post. He really, really excites me. And I think if that's the sort of scouting we're doing, I know he's not strictly an academy player because he came straight from Arsenal's academy to our first team, but he's playing his first minutes as a professional for us. I think he looks absolutely brilliant. Again, tiny sample size and anything can change, but I'm really excited by him.
Yeah, I agree.
It's also easy for these lads to impress us because they're surrounded by shit right now.
That's true.
It's like, you just go and complete 2 passes and my mind will be blown.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is that, but I think with Evan as well, like, was it against Leicester? I know he got injured, but he was standing out when he was he kept us in the game.
No, he makes some great last minute.
Yeah, if it wasn't for him, we'd be getting battered off in Leicester. Look,
I do think it.
Go on.
Look, it's all doom and gloom at United at the moment, and rightly so.
Yep.
I say, no one should be happy with where we are, even if we're in a Europa League final. No one should be happy with where we are, but the recruitment since that lot got here has improved, I think.
Yeah,
it's taken a clear direction towards bright young talents, which I think even when you get that wrong, you'll be okay because you're not spending crazy money on transfer fees and wages. But there is a lot to be positive about, I think. When you look at United's squad of players, right, most of them need to go. But then you look at the rest of them, like Lenny Yoro is exciting. Aiden Heaven could do bits. You got Toby, Chido, Harry Amass coming through. You got a lot of other youngsters in the squad as well, or close to the squad coming through. Paddy Dorgu doesn't look like a bad signing. You have still got, and these aren't youngsters granted, but Delit and Lissandro Martinez to come back. I don't think Mazraoui's there. Like the back line itself, I don't think we need to replace Lindelof if he goes. Maybe. And Evans. Maybe you replace them 2 with 1. Yeah. And then really all we need to do is fix the mid. I say all, but the midfield and the attack is what needs the most attention, really.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of good young players in the squad and in Carrington.
It might be exciting, and I mean, I don't see us getting relegated. I know that's play this in 12 months when we're in the Championship, but I think we are almost with a bit of a free hit next season. It can't really get any worse unless somehow Leeds.
I'm glad as well, yeah.
And we might
Champions
see
League
something.
or nothing.
Yeah,
because we're not in the Champions League.
Europa
Thursdays
wouldn't be fun, would it?
Smash you to bits.
Yeah,
and I'm convinced that's the case.
Thursdays do Saturday kickoffs next season. You never know.
Yeah.
Imagine that. He gets a week training with everyone every.
No, you're right. Look, we just want to see the youngsters not being sort of thrown in at the deep end all the time. And hopefully, with some of the players I mentioned, they'll have a bright future at Manchester United. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Let us know what you think about any of the players we've discussed. Let us know about some of the players we haven't spoken about today. Because there's a lot of young players that are sort of teetering on the edge of the first team, like Montato, like Morehouse, who a lot of you people are keen to see. And hopefully, we will sooner rather than later. That's been Adam McKola. You can go and check him out on his channel, on the club as well. And he's on the Overlap.
Channel.
Sorry, on his other channel. And the Overlap as well.
No, this is my channel. Subscribe. Thanks.
That's
been Joe Smith. You can go and check him out on this channel. It's also his channel.
And on the club.
And on the club. Yeah. And on Sloppy Joe's. You can just find me here. I'll just
If you subscribe to Sloppy Joe's, unsubscribe and subscribe again. Get some double subscribers.
Yeah, thank you. Had me in the first half, not going to lie.
This has been a look at United's youngsters. Thanks for watching.